If you want to make $20,000 in the next 7 days and you're a coach or consultant watching this, I'm going to show you a strategy that allowed my client to actually make $28,000 in just 7 days by using a very simple, unique strategy that not a lot of people really talk about, that you can actually implement no matter what type of niche that you're actually in. So all you need to do in order to make this work is a couple of things. The first thing that we need to do is we need to establish your traffic platform. So what I mean by traffic platforms is where people actually see you. So we have a couple main platforms that I use for myself and for my clients: YouTube, Instagram, and then TikTok. I don't know how to draw the logo, so I'm just gonna put a T. And these are like your traffic platforms. The platforms don't really matter because we need to do something that's gonna accelerate people that already see us from our content in order to make them buy extremely quickly. And if you wanna do this in 7 days, there's no faster way to do this but to have conversations with people. So what do I mean by conversations? This is something that if you actually know how to do well, you're going to be able to actually accelerate buying decisions. And if you pair with everything I'm about to show in this video, making a lot of money in a short period of time is going to be extremely simple. So to explain how this works, you need to understand something fundamental about how people actually buy things. People buy things based on how quickly you can accelerate them up a buying ladder. So what is a buying ladder? So there is a bunch of people right now that are following you that are in a couple of different brackets. So over here is a buying ladder. And let's say over here for someone to pay you a ton of money for whatever service that you're offering, fitness, mindset, nutrition, whatever, they have to go up this ladder. You go up this ladder every single time you buy something. Doesn't matter if it's a small purchase or a big purchase. Every single person goes through this ladder. What is this ladder? The first part that you're always in, no matter what type of person you are, is you become unaware of the actual thing itself. After that, you become aware. After that, you start to like. Here you start to trust, and then here you start to love. And then after love, this is where people actually start paying you. So what do I mean by this? If let's say I went to a store, for example, and I wanted to buy, let's say, a bottle of water that I haven't seen before. If I see that bottle of water, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna be unaware of the bottle of water initially. Then I'm gonna start staring at it. I'm gonna be like, you know what, this looks cool. I become aware of it. Then I look at the packaging, maybe I like it. I shake it around. I'm like, you know what, this is okay. It's a bottle of water. It's nothing crazy. And then I trust it, and then I go buy it. But I did that decision within like obviously 5 seconds because it's a small water bottle. It's not really anything crazy. When you were selling high ticket products, naturally there's going to be more time elapsing because people are going to have to spend a little bit more time to understand what are you trying to actually sell and what are you trying to do. So there's tons of people that are just hovering around here, maybe, that like you, that would be eventually willing to buy something with you. But number one, they might not actually know you can help them, or number two, they might not understand exactly how you can actually do it. So what we're trying to do by having conversations with people in a very short time frame, let's say 7 days, is we are accelerating the process of how quickly they go from here all the way up here. And trust me guys, if you do this correctly, making money in a small period of time is the easiest thing to do, because every single time I've made the most amount of money in a week, like 30 grand in a week, 40 grand in a week, it was simply because I had a ton of conversations with a lot of people that were actually interested in my program, and there were people that I could actually help. So if you pair your ICP with people who are interested in your help, or more so people who have the problem that you're trying to solve, you can make a lot of money. So the name of the game in order to make a lot of money in a very short period of time is to get a lot of conversations going with people that are your exact ICP that have the same problem that you can actually solve. Okay, that's literally it. And the way that you do that is super simple. First thing that you need to do is you need to start from your traffic platform. So this is how you're getting people to actually see who you are in the first place. Let's say in this situation, I'm using Instagram. And there's loads of different ways. You can use Instagram, you can use TikTok. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. You just need a platform to be able to have conversations with people on. So once I understand my traffic platform, I need to understand, okay, cool, how am I gonna be able to conversate with these people? Instagram, you can do DMs. YouTube, you obviously can't really DM people, but you can get their phone numbers by sending them to a funnel, or you can get their emails. Same thing with TikTok. You can DM people. I don't know if it's really the best, or you can pretty much just like get their emails or phone numbers. So that's that side of things. We've established how we can have conversations with people. Once you've established that, all you need to do is you need to just drive as many people who are in this bracket in your DMs. And the easiest ways to do this, guys, is by literally asking or prompting people to come into your ecosystem with conversations or problems about the things that they're struggling with, and then offer them advice and help, and then transition into having a conversation with them. This is the easiest way to have tons of people coming through the door without actually having to spend tons of time on making content, making marketing, doing all these types of efforts to get a lot of people into your ecosystem, because you're literally just using what you already have. And you might be like, but I don't have tons of followers, I don't get lots of views, I don't have that many people. I'm going to change your paradigm on that, because you probably have at least 100 to 200 people that you can easily start conversations with that are just sitting there. And if you're telling yourself, oh, I don't know if I want to have conversations with people, look at it from this perspective. These people, I kid you not, will eventually go from here to here depending on if they really have the problem. So the thing about conversations, all it does is it just accelerates the process of how quickly they go from here to here. Because for example, if you have someone that's in your DMs that doesn't know too much about your offer or who you're actually helping, they could eventually sit down and figure it out. Like they could sit down and be like, you know what, let me see what this guy has to offer or this girl has to offer. Let me see if they can actually help me. And they will eventually figure out that you have an offer that can actually help you. Or maybe they might see you have an offer, but they don't know if it can actually help them. Because you're not having a conversation with them, you're leaving it to chance that they go here to here and you're letting the world just naturally show it to them. But what you can do is you can actually make that conversation happen a lot quicker. And because most of you guys would be selling high-ticket products, I would imagine it wouldn't be too difficult to do that. If you want to know what conversations you need to use and how to actually start these conversations, I'm about to get into it. But if you obviously want to just accelerate this process for yourself as well too, there's going to be a link down below that shows you how I do it in literally just 5 minutes and how I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people make a ton of money doing this. So pay attention to this. If you have a platform like, let's say, for example, I crossed out TikTok. I'm going to put TikTok back here. Let's say Instagram. If you want to start conversations, I want to show you a paradigm shift on how many people you actually have in your DMs. So anytime you post something, let's say your post only get, let's just say on the low end, you get 30 likes. 30 likes, maybe some videos get 20 likes. Let's say some videos, maybe you get like, I don't know, 50 likes, you had a video perform well. All these people that are liking and engaging with your content, these are people that are saying that they're interested in actually having conversations with you. But what I see a lot of people don't do is they don't have conversations with these people that are actually interested in you. Because everything you need to look at is anytime you get a follower, anytime you get a like, that has basically showcased to someone that they're interested in what you're doing. It doesn't really matter how much the intent of how interested they are. It just matters that they're interested in what you're doing, because you're not going to like something that you don't like, obviously. You're not going to follow someone that you don't obviously want to see more of. So that's the cool thing about this. Anytime someone's doing that, they're indicating that people are interested in you. So here's the cool part. You can actually have conversations with these guys because the people who are doing this, they are basically here. And like I said, conversations accelerate the process of how quickly they go from here to here. So all you're trying to do if you want to make that money in 7 days is you're trying to just really accelerate this process of what you need to do. And that's what we were able to do for Prab. We were able to understand, okay, cool, people are having conversations with you and we're doing something sneaky to even add more fuel to the fire so you can even make more money, because now in this month he's already on like 60 grand, which is fucking insane. And I'm going to show you some stuff that we've been doing later on for other people that's been helping a ton of people out over the years. So once you're over here and you're trying to like get them from here to here, all you need to do is to follow a simple 5-step formula to DM these guys to take them from here to here. And I don't mean a normal conversation like, hey man, what made you follow, all that type of stuff. No, we're not doing that. Because if you do that, you're just going to be seen as just this like, oh, like another person that's trying to sell them like programs or anything like that. You're just trying to do it in a way that seems organic and is only going after people that need help. So let's do this. And this is where it gets really, really fun, because every time I do this, it just works. So let's go over here. Let me show you something really, really cool. So when it comes to Instagram, there's 2 ways you can initiate conversations. You can either initiate a conversation with someone that already comes to you, being like, hey, I have a problem and I think you can help. Or you can initiate conversations by letting people come to you, by basically prompting them or doing some sneaky things to have conversations with them, or you can reach out to them. I'm going to show you what the easiest ways. So first thing with Instagram, because I use this platform a lot, is you can have stories. And these stories need to specifically always prompt conversations, ask your audience questions, give insights. I'm going to rank these from like really good to like, I guess like not as effective. So let's start with like prompting conversations. The way that you prompt conversations is extremely easy. I can make a story, for example, basically saying that like, hey, I'm helping a bunch of people out, and then I'll probably put like an example of the story that I've done that did really well for me. Like helping some people out in the DMs with problem, Just reply to me if you have this thing, and I'm going to show you some free value. So what I tend to do to kind of like make this even more effective is I'll show people a strategy of how I've been able to make someone a ton of money. Let's say, for example, a case study. I'm like, hey, I made this guy X amount of money. I want to show you exactly how I was able to do that, but obviously everything's custom. So if you guys want to do custom for free, I'm in my DMs for the next couple of hours. I'll just answer any questions that you have about how you can actually do this. What happens is this gets people who, number one, have that problem, and they're like, hey, I want to actually see if this guy can actually help me. Like, what the fuck? Like, he's doing this for free. This is really cool. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a bunch of DMs, and this usually equates to a ton of calls. Tons of calls and tons of conversations of people that you can accelerate up that buying ladder that we just described earlier. So it might not get people to initially just go from unaware to just buying straight away, but you're going to get them to go from unaware to actually start liking you and start trusting you and being like, you know what, this guy actually knows their stuff. So all you're trying to do when you have these conversations, guys, is you're just trying to provide as much value as possible. And then you CTA if you feel like you can actually help them. So don't come in trying to just be like, hey, this is my offer, this is how I can make you a ton of money. Yes, you want to do that, or you can help them with their weight, their spirituality, their mindset, whatever. Yes, we obviously want to do that, but we want to show them that we can actually help them by giving them little bits of snippets of value. So give them resources, documents, give them stuff that can actually help their situation, and then prompt an actual solution if you actually feel like there's an actual lever for you to pull. So if someone says, yeah, I've been struggling with this for a long time, the easiest thing to do to get them from that like part to then go to the part where they trust you is by sending them either a voice note or by having a conversation with them being like, hey, by the way, I actually think I can help you get to that point, but it's up to you. Do you want my help or no? So you make it very simple. You don't pitch them like, hey, bro, like I'm going to help you make like $100,000. I'm going to fix your mindset. I'm going to make you lose 30 pounds in like 10 seconds. Just be like, hey, do you actually want help with this thing that I've just tried to help you? And it's either a yes or a no. And if they say they want help, cool, you book them in a conversation. If they say they don't, you don't book them in. And that's how quickly you can get someone from here to here. Just simple back and forths in the SMS can make someone be like, damn, this person really understands the game. This person really gets it. And I can't describe to you how much money I've made just by having conversations with people, because all I do is I just take them from here to here. There's so many conversations with people that I had that didn't know I had an offer, didn't know I had an affordable payment plan to work with my service, didn't know that I've helped someone in their specific niche that they didn't know about, didn't know that I've worked with someone that they actually respect that they didn't know about. And I guarantee that yes, they probably would have figured that out by looking through my content or spending time themselves to figure that stuff out. But they most certainly wouldn't have made action or taken action with speed if I didn't have that conversation to accelerate them to that next step. So that's why I believe in conversations so much, to the point that I can down the hill saying that if I had hundreds of conversations per day with people that will be interested in my offer, I'll be making as much money as I want, because it's the easiest ways to send people to the next level. So the reason why you're not making that money that you want to make right now, and the reason why maybe you want to actually make 20K in 7 days and you haven't been able to do that consistently, is just because you're not having as many conversations as you need. You might think that you need to have this special funnel with your leads coming in with like ads and it's just raining down, they're all coming to you, ready to give you their money, but you're not ready to actually try to talk to people who will be interested in your service. So how can you actually say that you're willing to actually get to that level when you're not willing to just have 10, 15 conversations with people who would be interested in your service? So that's what really changed the game for me. Have prompt and prompt conversations. Another thing that you can do is just ask questions, okay? So when I say ask questions, all I mean by this is go into their DMs and not go into the DMs, go on your stories the same way, and then ask people, by the way, what's like the hardest thing that you've struggled with XYZ? Let's say I have been helping people with mindset. I can put in my story basically being like, hey, what's like the hardest thing to come over when you're trying to like, obviously like, you know, get a job or like get a better role, or like when you're dealing with stress, what's the thing that people have been struggling with? I'm curious. I want to understand like a little bit more about what's been going on. I'm curious. I struggled with this, but I want to know what people have been struggling with by the past. What's going to happen is a bunch of people are going to come in being interested, willing to share their own stories of what's been going on in their life and why they've been struggling with XYZ. So you get people being like, yo, bro, like I've been struggling with this, I've been struggling with that, I've been struggling with this. This works a little bit better because you're going after people that are a little bit more on the unaware side of things, or maybe more problem aware. Because when you're prompting the conversations with people, like when you're asking people to come to you with their questions, it's like it takes a lot of energy for someone to be like, yeah, like, you know, I'm struggling with this. That's the reason why you can book a lot of people here. When you ask questions and you just make it like open-ended, a ton of people will DM you and you can just pretty much have conversations with those people. So that's one thing I would do a lot more over here. Just have a lot of questions, ask and prompt a lot of things coming through the door, and then people are going to be interested over there. So this has made me a ton of money as well too. Anytime I ask a question or I put like a controversial take on my story, which I'm about to get into, I get a lot of conversations started because people are like, yeah, like, you know, I've been struggling with this. I'm curious, what would you do here? And boom, that allows me to just make a ton of money from people, and it gets them pushed up naturally over here. So then all I need is either just one specific thing or one specific story that can get them over the line, and then they buy, versus them not buying before because they're in a specific section of the ladder. So that's what I would do over there. Last thing I would do is conversation, what's it called? What was I going to say here? I think I can't even read my own highlighting. It's controversial takes. So controversial takes, they could be anything where it's like, it's just going to start like a dilemma. So you can be like, this might be crazy, this might piss a lot of people off, but I don't believe you should do blah, 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 blah. If anyone wants to give me their own perspective, why? Hear me out, because this is my perspective, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this in a normal, natural debate. I don't really do controversial takes because there's not really a lot of things. Well, there is a lot of things in my industry to be controversial about, but generally it's very straightforward. It's a very simple and niche. And most people kind of agree with a lot of the common concepts. But if I'm selling something like mindset, fitness, I'm sure there's tons of controversial takes that you can make stories about that will get people to be like, damn, like I didn't know this perspective. Damn, this is interesting. And then you're gonna get a ton of people just interested in that. So try to think of some controversial things, make stories about them. I guarantee you, if you are doing at least 2 of these per week, you will get an extra 10 to 15 conversations depending on whatever audience. I don't care if 100 people are viewing your story. You will get at least 10, 15 people starting conversations with you every single time. It just works. There's no way to describe it. It just works. And that's the first way of getting people to come to you, by the way. Because now, let's say, for example, whatever reason, you have no stories, you have nothing going on for yourself, nothing's been working for you, cool. You can actually go out to people who were liking your content, following you, and having conversations with them, and then prompting a conversation by going to them. So now you can have the flip side of things where it's like, if they're not coming to you with all of these strategies that I mentioned, you can actually go to them by doing something very interesting, which is just by having a 5-step formula for DMing. So I'm gonna show it to you, but if you guys want help in terms of how to actually craft these stories and structures to make it work, obviously I do this custom for people to allow them to sign a ton of clients. So if you wanna learn how that works, just click the link down below. There's a 5-minute video breaking down exactly how it works. And to be honest, my help is not that pricey. So I'm going to walk you through one of the ways, well, not one of the ways, I'm going to show you the whole formula, to be honest. I didn't know if I was going to have enough time to show it, but I think it's going to be crucial to understand because so many people do the whole setting stuff or like the whole conversation stuff wrong because they're all sounding like robots. So here's my 5-step formula. And how I reach out to people who are interested in my content and engaging with it, and how I get them to book on a call with me and give me a ton of money. So first thing I do is I do something called the irrelevant opener. So what an irrelevant opener is by having a conversation about something that doesn't really matter about what I'm talking about. Whether I go on a story and I see a profile or I see a picture and I'm like, yo, this is quite interesting. I'll try to put an example of what that would look like over here. So here's an example. I'll do an irrelevant opener, something that doesn't really like relate to what I'm doing. After I do an irrelevant opener, so let's say they have story highlights. So these are like story highlights that people have. And let's say they're in Dubai over here. I'll look at the story, I'll read it, and I'm like, yo, where is this? I'll be like, this looks really cool. I would love to take my girlfriend there. I would love to take someone I know here. This is sick. Something like that. That comes in, prompts a conversation, and boom, boom, boom. You're pretty much in the door once they've replied. Then once they've replied, I then like to transition / probe. Actually, no, we're not really transitioning. We're probing for a problem. So here we're trying to probe for a problem, but you can't just initially DM them being like, yo, bro, what are you struggling with? Because obviously they didn't come to you for that. So when you have an irrelevant opener, it lowers their guards down a little bit, and then you come in with that mindset of like, okay, cool, let me see what they're struggling with. Be like, hey, I appreciate you, bro. They'll be like, so let's say they'll tell you, hey, it's from the marina in Dubai or something like that. I'll be like, yo, that's pretty cool. I I've been there a couple of, I've never been there, but I would love to check it out. Just curious, by the way, so you like my video. Just curious, like, what did you like about this specific, and in specific, I'm curious, man. And then they're gonna tell you, or they might say like, hey, I saw that you followed me. Like, what did you like about the content specifically? Was there something you were struggling with? Or you can actually try to prompt something yourself, but something that maybe you noticed on their profile. So for example, in this situation, when I like to probe, I always, because business is such a, I'll say it's a sensitive topic, just the thing that a lot of people have egos around, so you always have to kind of like cater to them. So that's why depending on your offer, your strategy to reach out to these people is going to be slightly different. In this situation, I always like to look at what they're currently doing. So I'll look at their page and I'll be like, hey, like I've just checked out your videos, and I'm curious, like what type of offer is this? Like I haven't seen this offer before. I'd be like, hey, I've seen this offer before. Like, are you just doing Instagram to get like people for your stuff? Or I'd be like, hey, I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. The reason why I like to do that is because it just sets the tone of the conversation and it kind of gets to the point. And I have enough authority to kind of do that anyways, because I don't really want to like sit down talking about just random things that don't really matter. I just do that to just have a conversation and get into the DMs. But then once I'm there, I always like to go straight into the problem or look at their page and be like, what are they doing in order to get clients? Because obviously my service is helping people make more money and get more clients. So I always like to understand, what are you doing to actually get more clients for your business? Like, how's it working for you? Blah, 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 blah. And I try to make it based on what they're currently doing. So if I see that someone has a bio and they're saying something along the lines of like, hey, I'm a appointment setting coach, or I'm a this coach, I'm like, okay, like, are you just sending all your clients from IG, or do you have YouTube? I didn't really see any stuff going on for yourself. So here is where they give me the probe. So here I'm trying to probe. I'm trying to understand what type of problem do you have. This is step 2. And once you do step 2 correctly, they're obviously going to give you a little bit of nuance of what they're struggling with. So in this situation, someone might be like, yeah, I've been trying to make IG work, hasn't been really working for me. Then what I like to do is, once I have a problem, I've established a problem, establish if they want help. This is the most important thing, and this is going to save you a bunch of time instead of going back and forth with people. So when you find a problem, I like to do 2 things. Depending on how much depth they give about the problem, I will also give them a little bit of value back. So I try to give them a little bit of a solution on why they need to solve that problem. And then what I like to do is I just like to ask, like, hey, by the way, do you want help with this? I've helped XYZ person on how to do this. I can do this because I have authority in my niche, and I don't really have to be sitting around being like, oh my God, let's see what we can do. Like, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? I don't need to be asking all those questions, because the DMs, like I said, just meant to accelerate conversations and give value. You're trying to push people off that buying ladder, which I have rubbed off for whatever reason, but you saw what the ladder looked like. There's people in different stages and we're trying to accelerate them. So if I just go in straight away being like, hey, by the way, do you want help? It just kind of removes the people that were never gonna buy from me anyways. And then the people who would be interested in help, they'll be like, sure, what have you got? How can you help me? What does that look like? And that's where I give them a little bit of value. And here I get in from stage 4, I then go into the transition phase. So the transition phase is where I'm basically trying to get them to book in, and I'm trying to show them exactly how I can help. So I'll show them a breakdown, or I'll send a voice to them being like, hey, first thing I'll do is I'll do blah, 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 blah. And then, yeah, if you want more depth, we can talk about it on a call. So every time you give them the solution of what you're trying to help, you then say, hey, by the way, if you want more depth, I can book a call and I can show you how. And that's like the easiest way to get people in. And then step 5 is literally just finally booking them in on the call itself. So once you book them in, they confirm the invite, you send everything over, and then it just pretty much works. And I kid you not, guys, if you are having 50 of these every single day, it's going to be so hard to be able to not make a ton of money. And now that's just for Instagram. You might imagine yourself, okay, cool, how do you do for YouTube and TikTok? It's the same formula really on TikTok, because I think now TikTok has like stories and stuff, so you can do a bunch of cool stuff there. YouTube, all you're basically trying to do is, if you have a funnel where you ask people for their emails and phone numbers or whatever, you can funnel people into that system where you give something like a free lead magnet or whatever, and then have conversations with those people. So now all you need to do is just start as many conversations as possible on a week-to-week basis by doing these strategies to get people in. You can even do strategies like, for example, making a video on Instagram. And then once you have your video on Instagram, you can tell people to comment for like a free thing. And then once you have the comments, you can start conversations with people in the comments. So all you have to do is, once you're doing this, you need to just set a KPI of how many conversations are you converting. So the easiest way to do it is, but let's say, for example, you have 100 conversations coming. Out of those 100 conversations, 50 of these people reply. I'm just simplifying the data just to make the math easier. Out of 50 people that reply, 50% is a good reply rate. Out of that, you should be trying to book or progress conversations or offer bookings to 15% of these people. depending on people that don't reply, people that are not qualified, whatever, and you should be booking at least 10% of them. So I know for a fact, confidently, if you can have 100 conversations, you'll book 10 calls consistently. And I don't mean 100 people messaging you all the time, because people are obviously going to drop off, but 100 conversations equates to 10 calls. That's all you need to be able to pretty much make, like, let's say, for example, you didn't have those 10 calls, 7% of those people, 70% of those people show up, you have 7 calls. If you have an average closing rate, let's say you close, I don't know, 30% of these people, you close like, what, like 2 calls, 3 calls? Whatever package you're selling, the 3K, 5K package, that's 9K in a week. That's 100 conversations, 100 people you have to talk to in a week. That's like 13 people a day. 13 people a day, guys. And how many people are probably engaging and liking with your content that you can start conversations with? It's mind-boggling. And then let's say still, you are not getting 13 people in a day to have a conversation with. Now you can even actually just accelerate the process and just run ads. And that's what we actually did for Prab, to be able to actually go from the point where he didn't have any people coming in. We launched an ad that costed us like, what, $15 a day to run. And that $15 got him like 15 people he could have conversations with. Guys, like, I don't even have to describe how simple it is. It's like mind-boggling how no one actually emphasizes on how many conversations you can be having. So that's why my clients make a lot of money. And that's why if you were to become a client, I'll be able to map out exactly what you need to do to be able to have conversations that make a lot of money as well too. So if you want to know what that is, click the link below. I've been able to help a ton of people. And trust me, it's not that expensive, guys. And it's just a 5-minute video that explains how I've been able to help and make a lot of people a lot of money. So check that out down below. And if you want my help, I'll see you on the other side. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll speak soon. Peace.